In an earlier video, I sculpted this girl, and it was based on this sketch. And the thing is, I like the sculpt of this girl, but I don't think it captures the intention in the sketch. And that's a problem for me. Rather than start over and make a whole new sculpture, I thought, I'll modify this one. And that's what we're going to do in this video. So I'm going to kind of tear this face apart, make some changes, and see if I can come closer to the original intention in the sketch. The sculpture was based on this drawing, and if you look closely, you'll see that it's actually two drawings. In this image, I took out all the black lines, and so you could see what the original red drawing looked like. After that was done, I laid this drawing with the black lines on top, and I was trying to express a kind of duality of somebody that was struggling with bipolar issues and what it was like to live with that person and be with that person. Anyway, that's what this drawing was about, and looking at the clay sculpt, I don't feel like I captured it. So let's begin to modify this girl. My idea for capturing the duality in the original sketch is to make the right side of her face very different than the left side of her face. It may not be the most original idea in the world, but it is the best that I could come up with. So that's what I'm going to do. The right side of her face is going to be her happy, kind, loving, gentle soul, whereas the left side of her face is going to be the mean, twisted, angry, vicious, psychotic, fucked up, lonely, sad, demented, insane, deranged, violent soul. It's not like I'm the walking wounded or anything. I mean, this isn't some sort of art rehabilitation class for first responders or, people with PTSD, survivors of horrible past lives. I'm going to have to do fairly extensive modifications to her left side, which I'm working on now. I'm going to completely change the shape of her nose. I want this nose to be much more like the kind of piggy nose, is the only way I can describe it, really, than in the original drawing, and more distorted and more extreme looking nose. So I'm blocking that in here. I'm planning to really exaggerate the features on the left side of her face. The nose is going to be much more like in the drawing, as I mentioned earlier, much more extreme and less human looking. The mouth is going to be a lot larger. I think all the features are going to just in general be a lot larger and a lot more extreme and distorted, and try to show the kind of stress and misery graphically. The eye I'm not happy with. I may have to really do something about exaggerating the size of that eye, but we shall see as we progress. I'm going to change every aspect of her figure, not just the face, but I think her left side will not have will either have very thin straggly hair or not have any hair at all. I'm quite decided that I'm going to I'll get to hair when I get to hair, but the hair, every aspect of her will be very, very different from her left side to her right side. So you just this is fast. This is blocking in, just kind of thinking out loud, thinking with clay, thinking about what the forms are going to look like, trying to mass it together. Of course, the biggest advantage to working with an oil clay is that it's very fast to work with, and you can build and take away quickly and easily. It's just super flexible. I'm often I like materials that are like sketching in 3D, and clay certainly does that. Other materials, it's harder to do that in rigid materials, particularly sculpting in wood or anything that's it's hard to, when you're only working in one direction, you're only working negative. Like when you're carving wood, you're just starting with the block and just removing material. With clay, you can remove and you can add and you can change. So it's very fast and flexible. That's probably the chief advantage to working in clay. When you're done working with clay, you have a clay sculpt, and then if you want to make a permanent sculpture, you then have to cast it in some other material because clay is so soft and so easily damaged. And so that's a downside with a wood sculpt or a marble sculpt or those sorts of rigid materials. When you're done carving, and you don't have to make a mold and cast. But here I'm going to have to cast for in resin. I plan to anyway. This will be, from the beginning of this project, it was always a piece that was going to get a blanket mold and be hollow cast in resin and then painted. So that plan continues. I just took this side step into making her better, making her say, not so much better, but making her say exactly what I want to say. Because ultimately that's the issue, isn't it? Does the piece say exactly what you set out to say? Or, I don't know, did you have any inkling, did you have any idea in your head when you set out to make something? It's part of the larger question is, why are you doing this? Why do you make a piece of artwork? Is it for you? Is it for the world? Is it for an audience? You got to decide these things. If I make this piece of art and I stick it in the closet and no one ever sees it, what did I do it for? Was it strictly for the entertainment, for the hours that I worked on it? Well, that's okay. That's fine too. Or are you audience focused? Do you think I'm not going to work on something and build something if it has absolutely no impact out there? Well, okay, then what impact do you want the thing to have out in the world? What is it that you want to achieve? Who is it that you're trying to influence? And why are you trying to influence them? And did you plan to do that when you started the thing? Or is all of this just way too much analysis, leading invariably to the paralysis of analysis, where you just don't do anything because you can't figure it out? For me, the answer is pretty simple. I just do stuff because it's fun to me. And I don't have much expectations beyond that, to be honest about it. I just like making things. I like playing with materials and fooling around with tools. The tool I'm using now is a homemade tool. It's just a loop of wire and 2 popsicle sticks. It's one of my most used tools. It's just a perfect illustration of why, when I tell you it's so important that you make your own tools, they'll turn out to be among the most useful tools you have, and they cost you nothing. The tool I'm using there, I don't remember where I got the metal part, but I made the resin blue handle. So a lot of my tools are I made myself for specific jobs. There's my popsicle stick wire loop tool. It's just a very, very useful tool. That's a great way to work too when you're building a tool with popsicle sticks, because you can you don't have to have any woodworking skills at all. You can just use buy a spool of fine wire and some epoxy, biminute epoxy or something, and popsicle sticks, and you can make a complete set of tools for yourself. There's just minimal skills involved. I'm always on the lookout for anything that I can turn into a tool for making art, whether it's a sculpting tool or any other kind of tool. I'm constantly on the lookout for found and free and easily available materials and tools and processes, anything I can appropriate and use to make a character. I think of everything I do, whether it's a sculpture or a drawing, everything I do is basically I'm just populating a world with characters. Sometimes you have a specific place that you already know the character is going to live. Sometimes the world that the character is going to go into dictates what that character looks like. Other times you're just designing things just for the fun of it. Then you can decide, does this person sort of live in his own universe, or does she belong to a world you're creating or an existing world? So character sculpting is just it's about creating worlds. Okay, I think this video's gone on long enough. We'll continue in the next one. Thanks for watching.